Hello, hello.
Hey,
How's
hey.
everybody doing? Welcome to today's live, which is about how you can have a great team and how we can make it better with AI. So I'm Claire Hayek. You all know who I am. Some of you that don't know who I am, well, I'm your host for today, and I am the founder and CEO of MSP Team Building. I'm a team leadership expert with over 20 years experience with managing teams. And I recently actually got certified as a neuroscience coach. I'm really, really happy to be here with you
Congratulations.
today. And joining me is our CTO, Marcel Seaman, a key member of our team at MSP Team Building.
Well done.
Marcel is actually an AI and technology expert who helps entrepreneurs, leaders, and their teams harness the power of AI and digital solutions to improve team productivity. Don't we all love that? Hey, Marcel.
Hey, Claire. Nice to be here. Happy
Yeah,
to
nice
be
to
in the
have you.
public together 'cause we've been working together
I
for a
know,
while.
right? Yeah, Marcel and I met a while back. I think maybe like over a year ago, probably a
I
year and
think
a
it's
half.
almost a year. Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
I was in Bali back then when we met. I
yeah,
think.
that's true. You were in Bali,
Yeah.
and I mean, we start talking and we instantly gel, and we were talking AI. I mean, those of you who know, I'm an engineer, actually, so all that analytical programming side of me, I just love talking to Marcel about how we're going to be able to improve the process and be more profitable and shave off all this extra time off of
Mhm.
our hands. And but anyway, here I am getting way too excited here before we start.
I
This
think our
is
conversation started when I sent out an email that was something like 52 ways you can use AI in your business. I think that was the starter of our first
yes,
conversation.
absolutely. And then I went, okay, I need to talk to this guy.
Hmm.
I need you to help my business. And I'll tell you one thing, all of you joining us today. He didn't only help my business. I mean, where we're at now, as opposed to last year, is we would have never succeeded with the acceleration that we're going with if it wasn't for Marcel's credibility when it comes to automation and architecting and designing all the processes and improving how we work and literally shaving off 20 hours a week of my time. But hold your horses. We're going to get there. We only have 30 minutes. I'm going to remind you again, we only have 30 minutes. But before we start, I always like to know where everybody's joining us from today. So please do put it in the chat. Again, we love to for this 30 minute to be interactive. We don't want to be just talking one way here. Please share in the chat where you're joining us from. Actually, Marcel is joining us from
From Belgium.
Belgium. So
Well
how would you
excited about
say welcome in Dutch or Flemish, I guess?
it. Welkom. it's the same word. Welkom op
Okay.
deze live presentatie. Die
There
hebben
we
jullie allemaal
go.
te zien hier.
Et pour moi, je suis, j'appelle en fait du Québec. I'm basically joining you from the province of Quebec, from Lorraine specifically, when we say bienvenue. So, and bienvenidos for our Latin amigos and amigas. So, very, very multicultural today. I don't know why I'm feeling it, but hey, why not, right? So, please do share in the chat where you're joining us today. Let me just go over here. We have Lucie Cote from Quebec City. Yay, Lucie. Thanks for joining us. And Connor from Montreal. Speaking of Connor, he's part of our team, and we're really excited to have him. He just moved to Montreal from the US, and we just really ecstatic about him actually being local now. So here we are. Without further ado, let's talk about today's conference, okay? Today's subject. So AI. Everybody's talking about it. I mean, we've been talking about that, Marcel, since 2023 when the whole ChatGPT wave
Mhm.
came on. And a lot of people are reluctant, especially in business, leaders, C-suite, owners, founders. Um, the whole security thing, there's all these questionings like this is going too fast, this is not legit, there's all these questioning and all this doubt about AI. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs and leaders that actually jumped on AI early on, and they're seeing huge difference in their bottom line and their profitability. They're leveraging it in every single way they can. So there's kind of like the two sides. And I think people are catching on with how AI can actually, the positive side of AI,
Mhm.
responsible AI, how we can use it to enhance productivity and team dynamics, because that's what we're talking about today. How AI can transform how teams operate, how we can enhance collaboration and drive innovation. So, Marcel,
Mhm.
can you share or explain how AI, or the role of AI in team, could be relevant in team dynamics, and how
Mhm.
it is actually helping teams become more productive, agile, and efficient? And while you're at it, like, what are some of the emerging trends, AI trends, that leaders should watch? I guess should watch out for in 2024.
Yeah, yeah, and I completely agree with the way like, what you see with other people. I mean, what we notice in the world is that many people know about AI and they know about the power, but they're unsure how to start using it, or where to go about it, and they're a little scared about what it can do, and all the other implications. So and then you add all the hype onto it with people telling you it's going to change everything and they're going to kill everyone, or
Right.
something like that, or it's
Or eliminate
nothing.
jobs, right? The main thing,
Eliminate jobs. Yeah, yeah,
eliminate jobs,
yeah.
right? And this is not what we're talking about here. And it's more
No.
about freeing up those repetitive tasks so your team members can actually excel better and grow and develop better skills, as opposed to repetitive, boring, frustrating
Yeah.
skills, tasks that actually cause stress,
Hmm.
frustration. And, we're trying to actually improve things here. We're not replacing you. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
so tell us, what are the emerging trends, and how do you feel that AI could really help teams collaborate better?
Yeah. So the way I look at AI is kind of like it's a new tool, but it's a really big tool. It's like we had computers, the invention of computers. Nowadays, nobody writes things on paper anymore. It doesn't make any sense to do your bookkeeping on paper because like, why?
Right.
But when we had computers and when it was new, there probably was that discussion as well. So the content of our job and what is more valuable and less valuable, that is changing. Something like having someone in a meeting just to take notes about what's happening, it doesn't make that much sense today anymore to have an actual person there, because we have AI that can do it almost as good. So it's just the content of our jobs that is changing, and it's a little bit, it takes some practice and intuition to get used to it, to know what it's really good at. Because people, when they start out with this, they see ChatGPT, you get the blank text field and you're like, what do I type in here? I don't i
Mhm.
don't i don't know.
Prompt
Yeah.
engineering is a thing. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
yes, yeah,
And if I may jump in here,
sure.
Marcel, I mean, it really, the way I see it, because when I first started using it, I'm like, I don't know how to talk to this thing. It
Hmm.
was like this thing, and there's me. And then I understood, and I watched a lot of webinars, a lot of people like educating on AI, and you're one of them, by the way. It's like really helped me is when I changed my mindset and I said, when I'm chat GPTing, I don't know if that's a word or verb,
It
um,
will be soon.
right? When I'm chat GPTing, chat GPT, think of chat GPT as a member of your team that is assisting you with a task that you really don't want to do, and that could do it really efficiently and
Yeah.
quick. And just write and speak to ChatGPT. Now we can actually record our voice, and obviously directly. I'm just saying it out loud. I know you know that, but
Hmm.
how would you talk to somebody on your team? So it's like, hey, I need you to help me with blah 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 because I need to target blah blah blah, and I need to make it more efficient and a bit more exciting and motivating, etc., etc.
Yeah.
What do you
And
suggest?
you're
Speak
actually
on the
hinting at
conversation.
the real clue of using ChatGPT. So if people are here, maybe there are people here, they're like, I've tried it and it's kind of I don't know, it doesn't do what I want. The
Right,
clue here is that you need to realize that ChatGPT, it's like a little bit like an intern, but who's very new. They're an intern as in they're cheap. I mean, ChatGPT costs nothing compared to a person,
right.
but they don't know anything about you, about the business, about the situation. So it's very important that you give it a lot of information, and you're also very precise about what you want it to do. And that's the biggest thing that you're going to see that gets you from like 0 to 70-80% there.
Yeah.
But the voice reminded me, that's actually one of the emerging trends that are coming later this year that I'm super excited about. We have the voice interaction, which I actually do this sometimes. the other day I was just on the bicycle and I put it on my phone with my AirPods in, and I was biking. I was just chatting with ChatGPT. So
Really? Okay.
yes, for sure. I was like, oh, I need to think through this. I want someone to like bounce some ideas off or get some
Interesting.
things.
So you're
Yeah,
brainstorming while you're cycling to your
yeah,
destination
yeah,
and conversing with ChatGPT. I
yes,
mean, you know what? If this improves our creativity and stimulates our ideas, why not? One
yes,
thing I'm going to say, and I don't want to jump too ahead. I mean, obviously, as you would with a person, don't take everything ChatGPT tells you for granted and go, yes, 100%. ChatGPT can be very creative. And one thing I've learned, and you taught me, Marcel, is to put in there, base it on actual information out there, provide references from these facts that you're sharing with me, and then you kind of like, you need to keep it under control. But anyway,
yeah. It
we're
tends
like
to
way
agree
ahead
with you.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I had a discussion with a client the other day when they were asking to do something. And I was like, no, it's not. It's technically it's not possible. And this client was like, yeah, it is. ChatGPT just told me. I'm like, no, no, no. ChatGPT tends to agree with what you tell it. So
yeah. And
for
then you can
truth
tell
and stuff.
GPT, don't just agree with me.
Oh yeah,
Actually,
that works a lot. Yeah.
get those references and make sure you do your research before you answer me. You're
Mhm.
literally speaking to a kind of like a fake person. It's not a real
Mhm.
person,
Mhm.
but obviously it's an AI. But
Yeah.
yeah, it just, I think the more you speak to it in a normal way, the better it is, because then you're not coming up with weird words and conversing in a weird way that confuses this thing.
Yep.
Just talk as you would speak normally. But
I
I
do
just
expect that we will see a big change in that
okay.
probably this year or early next year, because they're very aware of this thing that ChatGPT isn't really capable of reasoning like we are.
Yeah.
When I ask you something or when you ask me something, I'm in my mind, I first think about it and I think about what I've learned, what references, to make sure that what I'm saying is true. And the way ChatGPT works, I'm not going to explain you the whole technical details, but the way it works is that it's it's way more focused on making things that make sense grammatically
Right.
than actual like factual. So you can kind of look at it as it's like it's writing a screenplay of a dialogue between you and the robot, but it's in a whole other world where like we don't know what's true and what's false, what the laws of physics are, what businesses there are, we don't know. So it's like it makes a lot of sense, that discussion, but it's not necessarily true. I hope
Right.
that kind of makes sense. uh, but they're building on this technology that will actually give it the ability to have
Reason,
reasoning, yes, in it.
which is
What I do now all the time is I tell it, please write down your reasoning, like give me
mm,
step by step how you get to the answer. And even though I won't read it, I know that it's kind of smarter that way because I
yeah.
force it to write down how it's thinking.
It has to go through that and say, oh, okay, if he's asking me this, then I better watch. I better
Yeah,
be a bit more specific. Or right.
basically.
I like that. That's a gold nugget right there. If you
Yeah.
didn't catch on this, is that when you're prompting and when you're talking to GPT or chatting, is to once it spits out an answer, just to say, right, it's like, can you show me how you got to this answer?
You
Your
gotta,
reason.
you gotta say that first, because
Oh,
otherwise it'll make up a compelling story about how it got there,
okay. So
even though the
right off
answer
the
might
bat,
be wrong. Yeah.
right off the bat, when you're asking the question, make sure to share your reasoning. If
Yes,
I
first the
understand
reasoning, then the
first the
answer.
reasoning.
Yeah.
Okay, great, wonderful. This is really really useful. Thank
Yes.
you so much. So I just shared a question here. Please do. Put it in the chat. Just a little service. We're going to have two more of these. Is your organization currently using AI to support team collaboration, team productivity? Yes or no? Easy. Yes or no? Please do put it in the chat. We want to just kind of survey, see what's happening out there in the world, in the B2B world, or even if you're a solopreneur, are you really leveraging it? And just wanted to mention before, usually I mentioned it right off the top, is that we will address the questions in the chat at the end of the session. So it's like in 15 minutes. It's really going to fly by. So, Lucy, I know you have a question, and we might just kind of, you know what? Let's answer that right away, because I find
That's sure.
it's a really good one, and I'm gonna show it right here. on the screen. So Lucy asked, how can we use it efficiently and also maintain the confidentiality of our information? That is so key. That's a great question, Lucy. And that was my first question to Marcel when I started working with him. And anyway, Marcel, go ahead.
Yes, yes. So I'll assume that you're talking about ChatGPT or similar technologies, because I mean you can think of AI as a whole world of things, but we'll talk about this. Um, and here the thing is, first of all, what you need to know is that the way these things are built is because they are built to emulate examples. So before GPT is generative pre-trained transformer, it's trained beforehand, so it got a lot of examples of what does a conversation look like. That's basically everything they put in. So one of the extremely valuable things for some company like OpenAI who develops ChatGPT is that is the examples of good conversations. And so they want to gobble out as much data as they can, as much examples. So they will want to have your conversation history. And if you deal with confidential information and you paste something in there, then with the default settings, it is going to be used by OpenAI for either maybe they're just going to check it and see whether you liked it or not. Maybe they're going to put it as one of their examples when they're training the next version of ChatGPT. It doesn't literally end up in the training data, but it's still able to reproduce these things. So like in
It's
any
out
case,
there.
it's
You gave
probably out. You
okay
gave.
for them to
Yeah.
use it. So
Yeah.
we don't know. You have no control over how this is going to be used.
Yeah.
Okay.
So don't put in, like in consumer ChatGPT, don't put any confidential data.
Right.
Now, when you move to the using ChatGPT as a developer, or you have I think it's from the enterprise, but I'm not sure. It could be at the team level too, in the plan of the paid ChatGPT. Then you have the option, or it's by default. Again, I don't remember by heart, but you have the ability to tell OpenAI, guys, don't use this data. Like, it's mine. Please don't use it.
Okay.
So that is definitely something to do. You can still be in a situation where you're like, well, we're still sending the data to OpenAI, so we're trusting them that they won't do it. So that could be another layer of trust that you don't want to cross, which could be in certain sectors required. And in that case, you want to have a similar technology that to ChatGPT, but bring it inside of your company. So
Okay.
this will be a large language model that you run in-house so that the data doesn't go anywhere.
Okay. So if I understand this correctly, we have the option in ChatGPT when you use the free version and or the paid version, you can go in settings and
In the free version, there's no ability to turn it
there's no
off.
ability to do it.
No,
So you
no.
want to get the paid, and I highly recommend it. It's so much better, and it's obviously great for confidentiality. So. So with the paid version, we can go in, and I've done that. I know I went in the settings and I turned off like everything. Like, don't share anything. This is confidential. This is mine and mine only. So there's that answers your question, Lucy. And when it comes to the organization on an organizational level, what you said, Marcel, is that there's more on the enterprise level GPT that could be imported into the system. I'm not a tech, so I don't know what the words are, where it's really more proprietary and it just stays confidential. It stays private to the actual development and the developer inside the enterprise, and it's not the public GPT.
You have the ability of not sending it over to OpenAI to do the AI stuff, but instead literally having the box in your office, which would do the same thing. The quality level will not be the same, but you have that ability. Yes.
Okay, so we're good. We're covered. We're good. Okay, that's a great question. I love that. So again, I'm putting the question out on the screen here. Please do answer. Is your organization currently using AI to support team collaboration and productivity? Yes or no? And let's move on to the next question. There's so many AI tools. I mean, I use a gazillion ones, but at the beginning you get all excited and you're like, oh my God, I can do this and I can do this. And, and then you kind of narrow it down to what tools, your own toolbox, and that you usually would help you with your own productivity. And what I'm very interested in knowing, Marcel, is if you can share like 3 tools with us that could instantly take off, I don't know, 2 to 3 hours a week with teams, with leaders, with entrepreneurs that they can use literally after this LinkedIn Live. Can you share three with us?
For sure, for sure. So I think what this story that you're telling, I think this is a source of many people's frustrations in AI. There's 100 new apps coming out every day, and that is just the nature of this thing being so new. And I think one of the biggest things that needs to happen for everyone to just confidently use it without thinking every day is building better tools around it that make it easy for us to use.
Right.
Apple had their announcement, I think yesterday or two. I didn't watch it, but where they had it on the phone, and that's gonna. I mean, I'm sure that everyone's going to be using it on their phone, and they're barely going to realize it because that's what
Right.
Apple does. They've
Right.
been using AI for years. They just didn't call it AI,
Yep.
but they've been doing amazing. And that I love that approach. They're
Hmm.
doing it without you noticing. Anyways, given all that there's so many things, I tend to just go back to the basics and look at what are the fundamentals, what are the big few that make the biggest difference.
Right.
And so we've talked about
In,
ChatGPT.
in a productivity, I guess,
Yes,
context.
yeah, for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and so we've talked about ChatGPT, but one of the biggest limitations of ChatGPT, we talked about this before, is information. Right? You said that you need to give it a lot of information and be very precise in what you ask it. Now, this is very annoying if you need to do it every single time, if you
Oh
need to do
God.
it over and
Yes.
over and over again. So they built a feature called custom GPTs. It's in the ChatGPT platform. So if you have ChatGPT, if you have the paid version, you can build these actually. And basically what this is we're going to take ChatGPT and we're going to take information and we're going to put this together. So what you would do is you make a custom GPT specifically for your company or specifically for your team or your product. I mean, you can make it as big or as small as you want. You kind of have to play around with what's most useful. And then you put in everything about you in there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for MSP team building, we have custom GPTs that know about all our offers, that know about all the
Yes.
activities, that know about our approach, our target audience, all that stuff. And we really need that to be able to write very specific content. So that might be things external like emails or social media posts that it helps us, but also just website copy or I don't know what you use it. I know
Yeah,
what you use
I
it
mean,
for.
it's you know what it does. It sets the tone. What really helps with us is that we have a team. Well, you know, we have marketing, we have sales, we have admin, tech, etc., business development. But when we use our custom GPT that we program with all our information, we put our capability statement in there, the pitch deck, what new services we have, and we just keep feeding it and updating it as we go. Then if I'm using that GPT just to correct or rewrite an email that I'm kind of like, my head is not working right now, and I'm like, I cannot formulate this properly, and I put my email that I wrote in it and says, just improve it. So what that does, if Connor goes in and does the same, or Jackson, or you, or Angeli, whoever on our team goes in and use that GPT, I know that it's going to improve it. We're going to speak the same language. There's no confusion about somebody's going to say something else about MSP team that we don't offer, because the GPT knows this is where we are. So it's kind of like, interesting enough, it improves, but also it's like a safety thing. It's like, it's clear. You know, you don't have to overthink. Like, wasn't that do we actually do this? I can't remember. Let me go back to the pitch deck. Is it on our website? No, it's all there. ChatGPT will take care of it. But because we told GPT what we want, we told GPT who we are. I mean, that one, I love that one.
Yeah. And if you're the leader, this is important for you to set up, because let's say you have a specific brand voice and you don't want to speak in a certain tone of voice,
right?
Then you put that instruction in the custom GPT, and you're sure that it will never output that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I know people who use it. There's like sometimes it just types out very ChatGPT like things, and then you can add a blacklist of words that it's not allowed to use.
There we
for
go.
example.
There we go.
Yeah.
You're basically training. It's as if you're training an intern. Say, look, this is how we work. This is what we're about. This is what we don't do. This is what we really do, etc., etc. So let's move on. Time is flying by. I really have 30 minutes because I'm like, I don't know about you, and you can put it in the chat. Whoever's with us here. I mean, who wants to know more about this? Like, 30 minutes is just not enough. I want to take another 30. But
I'm just talking about the general stuff. So this is just like everything I can talk about very quickly, right? Which is, well,
we're scratching the surface here, people. So let's move on. So next one here on screen.
Notion. Notion is Yeah, it's one of my favorite tools. It's not necessarily an AI tool per se from the ground up, but it is a tool that lets you organize information. And everything we talked about before with the custom GPTs, that applies here.
Mhm.
Like for me, AI usage and note taking, it goes hand in hand
Yes.
because I need to know what I have to tell GPT. So I start just describing everything I'm doing because I know that at some point I'll go and ask ChatGPT about it. So I need something to copy paste. And I don't want to be talking for 20 minutes when it's like, I don't know, the first time I'm talking about a new product or something. Like it needs to know that. And with Notion, I can organize that. They have some AI features built in. So if you put put company information in Notion, you can ask it and it'll go and search through your whole database of all your notes and use that to answer it. You can have when you're organizing things like in your personal life, you'd organize books, and professional life, I don't know,
Right.
meetings or projects. It can
Like
also
project
autofill
management
some of the
in
yeah.
a way.
It can
It's like
also autofill things with AI, so it can help you break down tasks, for example.
awesome. This is great. Okay, and the third one here, um, we have is
Fireflies, yes.
fireflies. Yes.
So this is I hinted at this before. If you still have a person making notes in the meeting, it's probably not the best use of their time because we have AIs now that can do that. So Fireflies is one that works with just about any video conferencing platform. And basically it's a virtual person that calls into your voice calls or video calls, and it just transcribes everything. It knows what's said, and then afterwards it makes a summary of it with action items. So like you can just sit there and talk and be focused and be present, and then afterwards you have a summary of what happened and what's going on. So
Yeah, I honestly love these tools. Thanks so much, Marcel.
mm,
I personally use Fireflies, but just to mention, there's a whole bunch now. You
yeah.
can choose whatever one you want. There's Fathom with Zoom, and I know MS Teams has like a standard one that comes with the Microsoft suite. I haven't really used it, but
Mm,
and they're all good. They're all safe.
yeah.
What I love about that feature is sometimes you could highlight right in the meeting. You just click on highlight like it's a little icon,
Mm,
and so when you go back, you're like, okay, you know where the highlight is. You can go back and say, okay, I wanted to pay attention to that part because, and then what we've done at MSB team building with Marcel is that we've automated that all our meetings, we always have our Firefly agent show up. And actually all my clients go, we have somebody else here. I'm like, yeah, it's just an AI taking notes for me. And they're like, oh. So what we do is that automatically the notes from Fireflies are sent through Zapier. It's something we'll talk about another time. That basically brings it into our CRM and it's linked to the client file. So then we always know if I miss something, I know I can go back to that and do a little search and see
yeah.
exactly what you told me about your needs or whatever you shared with me. But let me,
We're like,
I
oh,
don't
three
even know
more
what
minutes.
there's so much to talk about, and we're running out of time. I'm going to go back to the chat here. If you have any other questions, please drop them in the chat. I did want to, before we not run out of time, and we'll probably take extra time, whoever wants to stay with us, I did want to share the fact that we're going to be we're going to have a webinar, AI Enhanced Team Productivity webinar. Okay. And we're going to have that on October 9th, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, October, there's a lot going on, guys. A lot going on. October 9th at 1 p.m. EST, 10 a.m. PST, where we're going to have Marcel and I for an hour and a half. It's a free webinar. Please do register, scan this. We're going to be literally taking an hour and a half and share amazing tools with you that are going to help you and your team save so much time. So please do scan that. And on the upper left or right hand side, not sure, of the screen, you see another QR code, which is for I've been talking about this for months now. It's our team leadership webinar. It's actually happening tomorrow, where we're going to be sharing, again, 90 minutes, 1 p.m., same time. We're going to be sharing tools about neuroscience-based leadership, how you're going to be able to change your brain waves in order to get more productivity, innovation, and creativity within your team. We're going to be sharing tools about communication, collaboration, as well as so much more. That's happening tomorrow. And finally, and I'll share this right at the end. So stay with me. I'll share what we're doing when our next LinkedIn Live is, which is actually going to be in October. But before we leave here, Marcel, I'm looking at all the questions I had for you, and I'm trying to choose one, which is impossible. Um, how can we integrate and leverage AI
Hmm.
into organizations, especially when we're not sure where to begin? Just
Yeah.
just walk us through quickly. Again, it's already 12 p.m., but I don't
Hmm.
care. I'm gonna go on. For those of you interested, please stay with us, um, and you can watch the replay. Just where do we start? What are the next steps? It's overwhelming, right? So
Yes.
how do we do this? How
The
do we start?
I think the first thing is the decision. This is
Good,
deciding that,
good point.
yes, okay, this is AI. I see there is something. I also know that I don't understand it. And it's time for us to go into it and learn how to use it in our company. Then I think it's important to have someone that's responsible for this. You can call this a CAIO, a chief AI officer, or something, or it can just be a random person in the team.
That is
Um,
interested in AI, that
that,
understands AI,
yes,
right?
yeah, yeah.
You don't have to be an expert. You can become an expert,
Oh,
right? I
for
mean,
sure. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a new field. Like,
exactly.
nobody knows what they're doing. You know.
We're all
um,
learning. Yeah, absolutely.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and so that is really key. That someone goes out there and kind of explores and looks out a little bit. What's happening? How can we use it? Of
Yeah.
course, you can bring in external people who have the experience and who know what's out there. But there, the key thing is really this merger of what do we do in our team, in our business, and what tools are there.
Mm,
Finding where that combines, that is a really big challenge
right.
because you really need someone who understands both of those at the same time. And sometimes, in like we've talking very general here, but sometimes looking from afar, you miss out on a bunch of things. I
Mm,
remember when I was in corporate, we had to. I'll try to make this story short. We had this little thing where we had these PDFs and we had to draw little red boxes on them with, I received this on this date and I received this
yes,
badge
I
from this
remember
client.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is just stupid work. Like, it's already even in the software, but just and then my manager was like, yo, Marcel, those boxes, you could align them a little better. I'm like, God damn it. So I
This
spent,
is where what we're talking about: frustration,
yeah,
stressors.
yeah. I
We
was like,
need that.
I don't want to do this, and this is simple work. I'm paid too much for this stupid things.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I spent the rest of the day on making an automation for that. So I would just have one click, and it puts in all the freaking red boxes correctly aligned in there. And so, that is something, and it spread like wildfire through the company because everyone was sick of doing those just red boxes. And that's such an example of something that you only really notice when you're in the weeds. Like, I could notice because I had to do this. But if you're sitting there, if you're just watching some, reading some article on the internet about AI productivity, or even if you just have something at just leadership level, maybe you might miss out on these things. But they're hours each week spent, and in
Oh
this case,
God.
this was a big company. It was hundreds of people.
I
So,
mean,
like, the
Marcel, if
difference that thing
yeah,
makes is huge.
if you just do the math quickly, I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars
Yeah.
saved a year for a small company, and millions of dollars
Oh,
saved
for
for a
sure.
Fortune
For
500.
sure.
If you're not riding this wave now, I mean, you're really missing out. So if I summarize quickly, you gotta make the decision to make it happen. So leadership, decision, basically who's gonna make the decision on this, because it takes the commitment. It's gonna take the commitment and the desire to do that, and maybe just seek an expert, or an outside consultant that could help design the process for you and work with your team and teach them what they could do. The thing that I notice out there is there's a lot going on, and a lot of consultants out there are pushing their own apps, meaning their own apps being affiliated with certain apps. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's fine, but if you're going to push an app, we want you just make sure, and this is my advice as a leader, as a business owner, whoever you're going to be working with, make sure that that person is advising you on the right app for your business, and not the right app to put tokens and money in his or her pocket or their pocket. Okay, so that's going to be very important. So trust that person that they're going to integrate that right tool for you, regardless, because that's a thing. That's a thing now. So transparency is important, and you'll see. I think right off the bat, we're presently. I mean, Marcel and I are working with a lot of our clients on improving their processes, and just we call it phase zero, just like little things that they can do instantly, and it just like adds so much value to them. So I'm going to wrap this up here, Marcel. I do have a little ticker here at the bottom. If you want to know more about AI tools, if we can help you in any way, please do reach out and type AI tools in the chat, and we'll get back to you with some of that. I'm gonna put up the AI enhanced team productivity QR code here on screen for our upcoming webinar. It's free, 90 minutes of just gold nuggets. This is gonna add so much value for you and your team. Would love to have you. So please scan this and register. And finally, my God, it's so much to talk about. And finally, I do want to remind you that our next LinkedIn Live, I usually have them every week. The next one actually will be in October. And I'm going to be sharing tools about neuroscience hacks that can make you an unstoppable leader. And that's October 2nd. All right. If you didn't catch all these QR codes, like I said, just put it in the chat. We'll send them to you. They're also in the chat. Connor shared all of them. We love Connor. We love Connor. And yes, we do. We do. He's amazing. He's awesome. Hey, Connor. A lot of love. And this one, when you know where to find it, it'll be under my events. So, don't say, hey, where is it? It's under my events, people. But please do reach out. I always like to chat with everyone. Again, I'm going to put this up on screen because we're talking AI, and I'm going to go over to the chat quickly to see if anybody has other questions. I know we're spilling over, but who cares? So if you're with us, we're going to address your questions. So Patricia, it's Patricia Angela Cazubulo. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. I'm trying. How can we use ChatGPT to streamline the process of setting wholesale and retail prices for both B2B and B2C, ensuring easy and efficient pricing across different levels? Love that question. And I think it's going to be a long answer, but I know it's doable. Marcel can maybe confirm that, but I don't think we'll have time to answer that one in detail. But if you do want to continue the conversation, Patricia, please do put it in the chat, and we'll have maybe Marcel reach out to you. Sure. Marcel, do you want to say like a couple of things on?
Yeah. So I mean, this is for sure a complicated question, and I don't know anything about like pricing in that. So it's a little difficult for me to imagine, but I can give you some hints there. If you would just go straight up to ChatGPT and ask it about pricing, it'll come up with numbers, and those numbers will not make sense. I've seen people before do things like in the marketing space doing keyword research, where it tells you how many searches there are for a specific Google search. Yeah. Like, look, you can do it with ChatGPT. And I look at these numbers and it's like, these are all wrong.
Yes.
Right. Like we talked about with the reasoning, it cannot do that. Now,
but there are apps. There are actually apps.
So
that you can do that with. That are more
when we go look more in enterprise, when you want to use AI in those situations, you're quickly going to see that there's a distinction between big AI and small AI.
Right.
And big AI is something like ChatGPT that we're used to. These are very complicated systems that can answer any kind of question.
Yeah.
But they're also not very specialized. And they're kind of expensive when you are using them really at scale. The other side, which many people in the machine learning or AI space find more interesting, is small AI, which is it's the same technology, but it's much simpler and much smaller, much faster, much cheaper. And what you're going to do is you're going to give it a bunch of examples of your specific information. So it's like, I'm always going to ask you about this. In this case, I'm also going to ask you about pricing. I'm always going to give you information in this format. And then I want you to give me a result in that format.
So we're talking about the customization that we talked about earlier.
Yeah. So you're going to take, instead of the big ChatGPT, you're going to make it, you're going to take a small one that exists, that knows a little bit about how to write a sentence, but that's about it.
Right.
And then you're going to take your business, your proprietary information, and you're going to train it on that. Because training on a large thing is also it's cumbersome. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
You're going to do that on that small thing. And that's going to be able to give you specialized information in this sense that you want. So that is something that you could be doing here, where you really are, you're going to make a custom AI that specifically does what you want it to do.
Okay, great. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Marcel. I'm just going to take 2 seconds here out of your
Mhm.
time before we wrap this up. Please tell us, what do you think is the biggest barrier to integrating AI into your team right now, your organization, your operation, whatever? Um, Lack of knowledge, budget constraints, or resistant to change? Anything else? Obviously we could go on here, but we focus on these three. Please do put it in the chat. We want to know which one is right now. I mean, for me, it was the lack of knowledge. And this is why, we teamed up and partnered up with Marcel. That really
Mhm.
helped us. And there's a lot of very knowledgeable people out there, more and more. You just need to make sure you choose the right people that have that experience and reasoning, and of how to go about this, because it's not just AI; it's all about the reasoning and the strategy. So that business savviness, right? So do put it in the chat. And again, Marcel, I mean, I can't thank you enough. I'm so happy
Of course.
that we took the time to discuss this. And I will, give me a second here. I'm going to put this back up. Please do register for this webinar if you want to know more. Either way, if you didn't catch the QR code, it doesn't matter. Just write to us, write to me. I'll put it in the chat and we will get back to you. Thanks again. See you tomorrow for the team leadership webinar, and see you October 2nd for some neuroscience tips and tools on LinkedIn. Otherwise, see you for the AI enhanced team productivity one on October 9th. We're here for you. We're here for growth, education, to add value to our listeners, and we're excited to do it. And if you don't feel that passion coming through the screen, I mean, I don't know what else can I can do to show you that passion, but we are very passionate people, our heart in the right place, and we absolutely love what we do. And I love the fact that, Marcel, you're part of this. Thank you again.
You're
Have a
welcome.
wonderful rest of the day or evening, Marcel, and see you very soon.